Hey everybody, welcome back. And my name is Wendy Glenn, in case you haven't watched any of our previous videos. And I am a homeschool mom of three kids.
And I am Jennifer Cole, and I am a homeschool mom of one.
And today we're going to talk about how and what kind of curriculums, I guess, right? And what are we talking
Hmm.
about today, Jennifer? We are talking about when and how and why and where and all the things on how to start your child in homeschooling and how Jennifer and I started our kids in homeschooling, which were both a little bit different. And what we know of other people when they start to homeschool their kids.
And we're going to go through a few different levels of curriculum, starting with preschool, talking about elementary school, and then middle school to kind of bring you back up to where we were because we started with high school and dual credit on previous episodes. So we said we would go back. So now this is us going back to the beginning.
Now, my kids came from public school, so I never started my kids in the beginning in homeschooling. But over the last 4 or 5 years of homeschooling my kids, I have actually talked and witnessed and seen a lot of different families just starting their journey as little kids, starting out, right? So, I mean, I kind of wish I would have. I don't know about you, Jennifer, but I really do wish I would have started in the beginning in my home with homeschooling instead of thinking that my kids had to go to public school.
I
That's
am
just
glad
where
I
I'm
did
at.
the other. I'm glad I sent him to public school for at least 2 years because, I mean, he went for, well, pre-K. We didn't have pre-K available, so I sent him to like a daycare learning center. And he had the worst separation anxiety. And because of his ASD, he did not want to participate in any of that. He wasn't comfortable with other children or other adults or anything. So he spent the first week hiding under a chair. And then the second week, like holding onto the chair leg. And then the third week, like laid over the chair. And then it took a while, but eventually he was just sitting in the chair like everybody else. And a month later, he was writing with all the other kids. Um, so if I hadn't done that in a pre-K situation, he would have been trying to go to kindergarten like that, which would have been terrible. So he wouldn't have actually had the learning experience in kindergarten that he did have. Also, I was able to, like, I was lucky that the teacher was super cool when he was in kindergarten. So she let me come and volunteer and be there every day. So it was almost like I was teaching him because I was there anyways every single day for kindergarten. Um, and then when it got to first grade, I was there 3 times a week and I took reading groups and helped teach the kids how to read. So I was teaching my kid and other children how to read, which I love doing.
And you
Um,
were worried about homeschooling. How could you
I
have
don't
been
know
worried about homeschooling?
because then I still have like the other people are there, like, you're doing great. Thanks for helping. And I'm like, okay. And yeah, actually the principal offered me a job and I was like, no, I can't. No. Um, but I was there so much, she's like, you're here every day. We might as well pay you. Um, so after that, I was like at the lunchroom with other parents, and they were like, "Yeah, well, the schools are great until third grade, and then you got to pull them." And I was like, What do you mean? Oh no, what do you mean? Like, I only have until third grade, and then what?" And they were like, "Yeah, that's when they start doing standardized testing, and it's a waste of time for the kids to be here. So then you got to pull them, do something else." So when that time came, I met Miss Wendy.
Well, I mean, and I say I didn't start from the beginning, but with my youngest, she did go to public school. She went to pre-K 3 because she has learning disabilities and some other issues. So she did qualify through being tested to go to school at 3 years old. That being said, we pulled them right after that year. So she actually only went to school for that half day for pre-K 3. So in some ways, I guess I did start from the beginning with her.
Yeah, you
Um,
did.
but I was also starting from the beginning with my other two as well, trying to figure out what I was going to do with them and how I was going to do this whole homeschool thing because it was completely new to me, just like Jennifer. I mean, I come from public school as Jennifer does. We both are products of our public schools. So with Zoe, when we pulled her from school, um, I actually gave her a break. She was very young. She was 4. And so I let her do some things when she wanted to. I let her play games. I mean, she did have the structure and the away time from me when she went to pre-K 3. Um, but at the same time, she was so little that I didn't feel like she was there yet. Like she needed it, right? Even with her learning disabilities, I didn't push her. I didn't feel like I needed to. So I gave her some time off to focus on my middle child, who he had gone through kindergarten and first grade in public school, but I started him over in first grade. When we pulled him with the curriculum that we're using, I was afraid of gaps, right? Everybody's always talking about gaps, and I was afraid that there would be gaps and he wouldn't understand. And so I was one of those really mean moms who sat him down, and he actually did a year and a half the first year we homeschooled, and a year and a half the second year we homeschooled to get him caught up to where he was supposed to be had he been in public school, right? Um, Anyway, and it was a lot, but he did it, right? And I mean, first grade was fairly easy for him because it was basically a repeat of what he had just done. So it really wasn't that hard for him, but it also gave us a time to figure out what we were doing, how we worked together, what I needed to teach him, what I didn't, and all those type things. So, I mean, I'm glad we did it. Was it necessary? No. Could I started him at second grade? Yes.
Probably. Well, and when mine was in public school, when we entered kindergarten, they were like, I'm pretty sure that he has a learning disability because his handwriting was terrible. Well, it turns
Oh,
out
my kid's handwriting is terrible.
every
My
doctor
handwriting
we've
is
ever known
terrible.
has terrible handwriting, right? So by the end of the school year, they were like, no, he just has bad handwriting, but he's gifted. And I was like, no kidding. He can read.
Yeah, yeah,
So, um,
exactly. So when
so
to start? We'll
go
just say
ahead.
this. So when to start? What age? I mean, technically, Texas says that you don't have to start teaching homeschooling your children until I believe 6 years old. So that's
Mm.
kindergarten. Most people want to start earlier. I know my niece has already started with my great nephew. They do phonics and reading books. That's where to start. Play-Doh. Don't worry about handwriting. In fact, I don't know if Jennifer's seen the new studies where they say technically kids that little their hands aren't even developed enough to like really be able
Yeah,
to write
well, that
anymore.
explains
So
it.
exactly. So you don't have to really worry about handwriting that much. I mean, as long as they can read it, as long as it's legible, which I mean, both of my kids, as long as they slow down and write, they can write very neat. They just don't because they always want to write fast and get it done and over with.
And my child types faster than anyone else in my household. And I type
Mm,
very quickly, and he types lightning fast. So I don't ask him to write. I just put him in front of the keyboard and let him work on the computer because everything I do as an adult is on the computer. I type my emails, I type my spreadsheets, I type everything. So I don't understand why he needs to have good handwriting. So I've done handwriting with him over the years, so he can write in cursive, he can print, but I don't make a big deal out of it. It's just clearly not his strong suit, so I'm not going to beat my head against the wall about it. So,
I've always had horrible handwriting. I'm left-handed, and I've always just kind of blamed it on that. Although all the left-handed people in the world are going to be like coming at me now. Are you left-handed too?
mhm, yeah. And I write our notes because my handwriting is
Yes, you
clear.
do. It is better than mine. It is. I have horrible handwriting.
No, but it's fine. And some people they just do, and some people just don't. And it really is not. It's not a thing. It's fine. Just type.
I
Really.
mean, half my family's left-handed, so I mean, I just like I said, I just blame it on that, whether it is or it isn't. It's what I blame it on. But anyway, so preschool, kindergarten, pre-K 3, pre-K 4. I mean, you don't really need those things. Again,
Yeah.
start with
You know where we
phonics.
did? Yeah, reading. You know where we did a
Yes,
lot of
reading.
reading with when I with mine is we read at the grocery store. Like once he started realizing that all the signs all around the grocery store had words on them, then he wanted to know what everything said. Well, fortunately, also, a lot of those signs also have pictures. So it's easy for them to associate the words with the photos. Like there's the meat, there's a cow there, there's vegetables on the sign. So we learned a lot of reading at the grocery store, doing things you're going to
That's
do anyways, right?
yeah,
You want to learn,
absolutely.
like we always said, you want to learn math, do some baking. If you're doing fractions, start baking with your kids. I mean, that's everyday activities will help them, especially when they're real little, learn all these things that you're trying to teach them anyhow. It's a lot of
Yes,
fun.
absolutely. Yes, and make sure that you're not, even if you set some time aside for a actual learning experience, right? Let's make sure that the little kids are only getting a few minutes a day. No child needs to be sitting there for 8 hours a day,
Oh, not
ever.
at any grade level. So, do we want to
No.
talk about times now, or do you want to wait till after?
We can talk about times now, I guess, if you want to, since I just said it. I just skipped right ahead. I skipped our
That's
notes and
fine.
said,
But
throw it to the
children
wind.
from pre-K to kindergarten have an attention span of about 3 to 5 minutes in a row, solid, right? So you got about 5 minutes and they're going to be off looking at a squirrel. So
Yes.
um, pre-K should be 22 at the most 60 minutes a day, and
And
kindergarten
broken up.
30 to 90 minutes a day. Now we're talking total. So, you know, if their attention span is 5 minutes and you can do four activities that are each 5 minutes long that grab their attention, that's 20 full minutes of learning. That's a lot for a pre-K, like we're talking about a 4 or 5 year old. And that's a
Yes,
lot. If you can get them to
absolutely.
sit there and listen to a book, I mean, counting blocks. I mean, just 5 minutes and then take a break. Let them go off and do something. 5 minutes, take a break. But that's the max attention span until you get to first and second grade, which first and second grade is about 5 to 10 minutes. So, you know, if you do 45 minutes to I wouldn't even spend 90. It says a max of 90 minutes when I looked it up, but I think at the most you're going to do an hour a day in first and second grade. So we
Maybe, I
didn't,
don't know. I think we did more than that last year with Zoe. Um, but I was still trying to
but not
find everything
every
and figure
day.
everything out.
But not every day. Do you do every day?
No,
See, we did an every
sometimes.
day.
Well, it depends. It really depends. Because I mean, we could think Zoe was second grade last year, and so I mean, it was kind of broken up, but not as much as you would think. And no, we did quite a few hours, but not like a full 8 hour day. But we did do quite a bit. But she did get to be able to get up and eat lunch and take snacks and those types of things to have like little breaks in between.
Yeah, it's super casual, not like you have to sit
Yeah,
there
no.
and
Oh, so like, well, this is what we were when we were taking our notes, this is what we were talking about. You can go online and you can find um schedules for homeschoolers, right? And they will schedule everything from
yeah,
breakfast to dinner, and they will tell you how long and how much time you should spend on every subject and giving your kid a snack and going to the bathroom and having lunch and doing all these things. And I'm like,
don't do that.
absolutely not.
Don't do
No,
that
don't
to your
do that.
children.
Don't do that.
Because
I
first
mean,
of all you're doing is recreating public school. If you're going to do that,
yes.
then just leave them there. Like it's just
Yeah, it's
torture for you too.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, no, 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 no. I mean, I don't think we ever actually went to 3 o'clock in the afternoon unless we were taking major breaks or we had our co-op.
Mm.
When we have our co-op, yes, we would do school before the co-op and then have co-op. So sometimes we would go to three, but it was here's like some one-on-one time, and then here is a big group of kids coming to the house to do some school with you and to do something fun, science, usually is so they were interactive and that
Yeah.
kind of
And
thing.
there was
They didn't
like anywhere
realize.
from
And then they went
six
and
to
played.
12 kids. and they would get together and we could actually
Yes.
keep those kids engaged for pretty
What a
solid amount of
while.
time because they were all
Especially in
together.
Yes, yes. Especially when we had like cute activities to do for with them, like their science experiments or like were you here when we did like the Liberty Bell? They were all outside painting, things like that. They learned a little bit and then they got some hands-on stuff. So maybe a little bit more than that one-on-one time because I will admit I am not the one who's going to be baking with my children. I
We did
I'm just
baking.
we did do baking as a group. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And we've done it several times as a group. But on the day to day, I am not going to just bake with my children.
No,
I
but you
just
have
don't.
more kids. Like I only have one, so I bake with him. But he's older now too, so now he can do all the measurements. So now I'm like triple the recipe. Now what? You know? Yeah. So
And I mean, and again, Zoe has her limitations where I still don't allow her around the stove too much. So, there is that. She does
and then
help
oh
at
sorry.
sometimes, but you have to also know your children, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so my youngest daughter, again, she has some things that she's struggled with over the years. And one of those things is don't touch that. It's hot. And she was going to touch that. So, and she still does that a little bit. Even when I burn, she sees me burn myself in the kitchen and I'm like, I can't cook. Why am I doing it? How am I going to teach you how to cook?
Oh, that's funny. So,
Okay, and now as they get older, right? Now we're getting off subject. As they get older,
right,
so
grade
third
three
to
through
fifth
five.
grade,
Yeah, go ahead.
yes. You have down here, well, about 60 minutes to 120 minutes is
Yeah,
that what you found?
two
Now
to
we
1 to 3
we are
out, like 1 to 2 hours.
well, we do
So
we get started
third
about
grade,
9.
yeah, third grade,
It's about 3 hours. We do about 3 hours.
that's a long time. Mine never
It
did.
is, but we do about 3 hours. But I will say this that I also have other kids here too, and they also get like depending on um what everybody is doing. So like today, if Zoe got done with her stuff, she grab a book, go read, go to your room, go do something while everybody else is finishing up. Or, oh, one of the other kids got done. Okay, now you go do something. And now now I've got that one-on-one time with that last child, right? And so we do that. And so sometimes our school does last about 3 hours or so because yeah, get started at 9 to 12. Today was a little bit longer. Um, but of course, that last little bit was all four of the kids sitting there and doing. I have decided to do a little. I don't know how to explain it, but a little history type stuff, right? We've gotten into this little history thing that we did with our writing class, and I'm going through all those sections and
Mm.
I'm looking up little videos for them to watch. So now it's something fun, right? So the last 30 minutes or so is something a little bit different, right? They're not sitting there doing schoolwork. They're watching a video and we're just discussing it, right? And we're just going to go over the whole timeline that we did in our writing class.
Yeah. So you
Because
do a lot of different subjects in one day. And what
yes,
we do is one subject per day. We used to do a little bit of each subject each day, but I felt like we couldn't really dive into some of the ones that he was struggling with. Like we really couldn't get into the math, um, especially in fifth grade when we were doing the whole fractions, which is fifth grade is all fractions. That's really the only thing you learn in fifth grade, fractions. And so we really needed time to like deal with some of the fractions. So we ended up doing, different subjects in each day. So math day, yeah, we probably spent 2 to 3 hours on math day. But my son, he excels at language arts. So language arts day was quick. There was no way he was in front of that computer even for an hour because he's really good at that. So I think it depends also like on what subjects they excel at versus where they struggle. And then if you're doing a little bit of the hard subject each day, maybe you're going to have a
and
little more.
multiple kids. Yeah, and multiple kids. And
Yes, and
and multiple kids. So
absolutely.
yes. So
If you have more than
um
one kid, you're going to have one that runs off doing something else, like hiding in the bathroom while you're trying to teach the other one. And all of a sudden, their day is going to be 30 minutes longer because they just hid in the bathroom for 30 minutes, So Yeah, it's kind of like herding cats a little bit, probably. So,
Exactly. Well, just to picture some of our friends who have like 6 kids that they're trying, or
no,
5 kids.
no, no.
So on the normal everyday, I have 4 kids that I am homeschooling. And yes, and so we do different subjects to get a little bit in every single day. And I do have kids that excel at some subjects. So like I said, so they do have some free, a little bit of free time some days as long as they get their subjects done. And then some other ones who, obviously, if they excel at this one, they don't at this one. So then they take a little bit longer. So, yes, our 3 to 4 hours is a lot of me sitting there. Okay, come on, do your work. Do your work.
Or like your daughter who is a math genius one day and the next day
The next
forgot
day
how to
has
do math.
no idea what numbers are. Oh, there's numbers in math? I had no idea.
I think she is just joshing you.
Eh, but she's a great reader, right? So she'll get through language arts type stuff. I mean, for the most part, really, really, really quickly. She likes to, you know, fly. Well, she likes to read, so she will fly through those. Although sometimes, today she had a little bit of trouble, but it was like, okay, that one's wrong, and then she's like, okay, and she'll go back and reread it. I'm like, how do you think it was filling in the verb, and they were like being verbs. Sometimes those can be tricky in past tense
Yeah.
verbs and all that kind of stuff. They were a little bit tricky. And I'm like, one of them, I'm like, that's kind of how you would normally say it, but that wasn't the correct answer.
Yeah. We all know all too well that we could probably take our kids' tests and score poorly. Um,
Yeah.
Orion and I have
I,
done some tests together, and I'm like, okay, we'll do it together. And then we answer, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a good answer. And then we get like a 60, and I'm like,
never mind.
we need to go back to the lesson. Fortunately, they let you retake stuff when you homeschool. So,
Exactly. Well, that, and nobody speaks proper English, right? So when you're writing it, it's the grammar part of it, and you're kind of like,
only
well,
if you're
yeah, that's
wicked smart.
yeah, exactly. And especially when you throw in all my sayings from up north, you can't. There's a reason why I can't spell. I mean, how do you spell ka and pak and
Yes. Okay.
and then now older kids. Now we're
Yes.
up to where
Sixth to
where
eighth
our kids
grade,
are, sixth to
which
eighth
is
grade.
where our kids are at high school. It
Yes.
says 15 minutes per class, 90 minutes per day. Um, I
Reese
don't know.
takes longer than that.
There's no
Reese does
way.
take
That's
longer than that.
so yeah,
Like
so I
I
don't
would really,
understand.
I would take all these times that you're going to find online and throw them out the window.
Yeah.
Like seriously, because you also know as your child when you're going to lose your child, like how much attention span can you get? What can you get out of them each and every day?
Mhm.
Your child, every child is different. You know, there's no wrong or right answer, right? Just make sure that they're learning, growing, developing, their good habits, bad habits,
Well, and the
hopefully
other
all good
thing,
habits. Good
yeah, the
habits.
other
Shouldn't
thing
say
is
bad habits, but
some days they're going to have an off day. And when
yes.
they are just not feeling it, don't do school. Just stop. Because it's like if you were having a bad day, would you go try to like do your best work or be your best self? If you have a bad day, no, just get in bed and crawl into the covers and just call it a
I
bad
wish I
day.
could have those days. I don't have those. I can't have those days.
But I mean, don't force them into a schedule. Don't force them to do something that they don't want to do, unless they're just always not wanting to do school, and then you have to
Yeah.
force
And
them.
then
But I mean,
exactly.
like, if it's just like today's not the day, then maybe switch subjects, maybe switch activities. Just go outside, maybe even for a while. Just, you know, I don't want you to like have your kids screaming and crying and fighting, and it's not a good experience, and that's not what learning is supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun. Now, it's not always going to be fun because you're going to eventually have to do algebra, but or
You are
fractions.
correct. Yes. Yes. Or
But
fractions. Yes. And
but it
all the things.
shouldn't
All the things.
be like just always that negative experience. So that's why.
Absolutely not. But like I said, you know your kids once you start working with them, how much work they'll do every single day, how much work they won't do. Sometimes I'm like, sometimes you do have to push them a little bit harder, sometimes just to get a little bit extra out of them, because eventually, hopefully, they will go off to college or some kind of higher learning, even trade schools or things. Our local community colleges offer a whole bunch of trades, so eventually they are going to get there and they are going to have to write papers and they are going to have to do a little bit more work. But as Jennifer and I were writing our notes for this the other day, we literally looked at my son who is in college and asked him how much time he spends on his classes a day. And what did he say, Jennifer? Do you remember? I
I
do.
think he said I don't remember exactly, but I want to say it was like 2 hours or something. It wasn't very long.
He said an hour to an hour and a half, maybe
Yeah.
2 hours if
Yeah.
if if he had a lot of stuff to do.
Right. Well, and then part of that is just making a responsible choice about your class load, right? Like you want to be able to take, like in his level, he's taking college courses. So you want to put your easier classes with harder classes so you're not like in this huge heavy workload of four difficult classes at one time. So you can space things out. And you do the same thing with your little kids, right? You know what? Math is tough. So maybe you don't do math first thing Monday morning. Maybe save it for Tuesday, you know? And Monday we do our favorite subject because that's the day we don't want to start doing school again after the weekend. So we do our favorite subject on Monday and something a little harder on Tuesday. Also,
Or
we
you're like
lighten up our
me,
Friday.
or you're like me and just go to school all week long.
Well, and we do. And like if we're doing like writing with you guys, like co-op writing, which is extra. There's times where, I mean, I can't sit with him to do some of the proofreading and stuff. So we do a little on Saturday. Or sometimes I'll be like, you know what, just forget school on Friday. We're going to do it all on Saturday and Sunday because I want to be able to help you with these things because I feel like he needs a little bit higher training on his whatever it is.
Mhm.
So,
Absolutely. And that's what we've done. Well, in because of the group that I started here locally, we do a lot of field trips and park days and all these different things because it's my group and I have done the events that I take my kids to each and every one of the events. If there's an event, I am going to be there. So that also broke up our school a lot.
mhm.
And so there are times, yes, where we get like maybe a half a day on Thursday, and then we're going to the park, and then we are going to have to make up that half a day on Saturday. Usually we don't do too much on Sundays, but in the past, sometimes we have. It literally just
Yeah,
depends.
like if you
But yes,
procrastinate your
Saturday is
writing
like our
assignment.
makeup day. Yeah, yeah, exactly. But Saturday is our makeup day. But
Mhm.
I mean, there also comes a point in time, which we haven't discussed, that your kids should start learning how to learn and almost to some extent teach themselves, which my
Yeah.
son is there and he's going to be in seventh grade, but he's been there for a little bit. Like in the morning, he brings me his math book and I look at it because I have learned that the math that we're doing, the lessons, some of them are extremely easy, some of them are extremely hard. Most of them are very heavy and they take too long. So in the morning, he will bring me his math book and I will cross off some problems that he does not have to do. And then he will, do his math. And then, like, he's done with language arts for the year. So I've actually started him taking TSI practice tests, watching TSI videos on how to pass the English part of it because we're just working on the English part because he's not there for math yet. And he watched a video today and it was a long video. I will say the video itself, he took a couple breaks, but I think it was an hour and a half TSI video. And I said, I asked him at the end of it, I said, well, did you learn anything? Did it teach you anything? Was there anything on there that you didn't know? And he said, yes. So it was worth it. Like, it was a long day, but it was worth it. Right.
Yeah.
But like I said, he's taken over and he just asks me what he does, what he needs to do for the day. And I will give him what he needs to do. And he just goes and gets it done. I don't have to stand over him. I don't have to, you know, for the most part, there was a couple of years ago where I wasn't checking his work enough when he first started being more independent. Um, and I wasn't checking his work enough, and he wouldn't do his work. He would sit there and act like he was doing his work and
I
not end
remember
up
this.
doing all of his work. And then we ended up switching curriculums around that time because I realized he wasn't learning what he needed to learn without me there. Like he wasn't taking the initiative because of course he was still a little, I what he's in, so this was like fourth grade, like right at the beginning when he should have started transitioning over to teaching himself. um and he was not in fourth grade. They were doing fractions in his curriculum,
Very
and he was
sneaky.
skipping the fractions is what he was doing.
See, my point exactly. But yeah, so we know, so basically between fourth and fifth grade, they should start to become self-sufficient and they should
Yes.
be able to take the initiative to do their own work with you just checking their work. Now, my kids do time for learning, so we do, I have the lessons assigned. I assign his lessons each day. So they're already on there for the week. So now he's getting to where he's like, well, I want my lessons like this, and I have to structure them the way he wants them because he'll actually do more work if I let him choose how they're structured. So I just let him decide which ones he wants to do first and on what days, and then he'll do more lessons for me because it's what he chose to do.
Yes.
Um,
And we do have a note down here, and I think I really do have to go over this again because I know both of us just did, but
it's
even
about
if you find a
skipping.
curric yes, even if you find a curriculum that you like, right? Because I have found curriculums that I like, found curriculums that I don't like. I have realized that for math, a more mastery type um, curriculum works better for us. Which means the kids are doing basically the same thing all day, and they're supposed to continue to do pretty much the same thing until they've mastered it. Are they necessarily mastering it? Yes, because like I said, they are doing the same thing every single day until they do master it for the most part, right? Um, but there's that kind of curriculum, and there's a spiral curriculum, which is what he was doing, which it kind of adds in new things every single day. But when you get to the actual work, your actual like, this is what you're doing for the day, it would have like clocks and addition, subtraction, and fractions, right? Or something in multiplication, division, fractions, right? So it'd have all these different things on one lesson. And that's when he started, well, I don't know, I'm not very good at fractions, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to skip the fractions and do the rest of the work, right? So I have found that that's what we need. I found a curriculum that works for us, as in the fact that it's in the format that I need. Is it the best curriculum? Maybe not, but it's in the format that I need. It does the mastery part that I think we need. So again, like I had said earlier, some of the lessons are extremely heavy, right? And it's just pages and pages. So I have learned that I can cross off problems
Mhm.
for
That's what
all
I
the
did.
kids, right? Cross off problems, or I can cross off pages, right? Or sometimes you don't have to finish a curriculum, and this is really hard for me. You don't have to finish the
You
curriculum,
don't.
and you can skip lessons. If that lesson
Yes.
is just like, sometimes I will find lessons that are just kind of out there. And the math that we're using it does have some of that common core type stuff to it, like where it teaches you 1 plus 1 is 2, but then you have to get to it 3 different ways, and it teaches you the 3 different ways to go about it. And so at one point, I just look at the kids, I'm like, just do the math. Like, here's the problem: 1 plus 1, just do the math. Like, don't worry about how it's telling you to do it. Do it however it is easiest for you. If however easy it is for you to get the correct answer, just do the math, right? That's technically how Common Core is supposed to be. Of course, we all know it's not. If you don't do it in the proper way when they tell you to, then it's wrong.
Well, and what I told Orion,
But
because with his time for learning, they give you like
yes,
multiple different ways to do things.
yes,
So I told them, I was like, these are
I
just
want them to
suggestions.
learn the different ways and just pick
Yeah.
up which way is better. But I'm
Yeah.
not worried about like if this lesson says this is how you're supposed to do it. If that's not working for them, then don't do it that
No.
way. Like
No.
do it however you need to do it for you to get the correct answer. Just do the math itself, right?
Yes.
However your brain works. Like it's showed you the three or four different ways. Pick which way is best for you and do it that way, right? And I think that's part of some of the things that confuses my daughter a lot because it does teach so many different ways. She's like, you
Hmm.
show me one way and this is how I'm going to do it. And
Right.
and then she wants to sit there and ask me, is this how I do it? Is this how I do it? Is this how I
Right.
do it? Is
Because
this
it's
how I do it?
confusing. That's too many
You know,
ways, right?
yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, I like it, but yes, don't be afraid to cross things out. Don't be afraid to skip things. Guess what? You're the teacher. You can do that. You can absolutely skip lessons. You don't have to do the
We
whole
would take,
curriculum.
yeah, we would take our workbook and I would tell them, if you can do these two correctly, we'll move on to the next lesson. Okay, you do these two correctly. I'd pick an easy one, hard one. Do them correctly, we move on to the next lesson. You get 100% on the quiz, you don't have to do all the practice. Like we just need to know what we're doing here, right? We don't need to beat a dead
Yes.
horse. So
Yes.
make sure they understand the concept and then move on. And I'll tell you, on his curriculum, even though he's completed, maybe we go through a complete curriculum, for example, and we do all the quizzes and all the tests, but maybe we skipped a few lessons in between because they were just repetitive and unnecessary. We're still only getting through about 70 or 80% of the curriculum, even though we've done every bit of it, right?
Mhm.
We've completed it, but we didn't do every single lesson. So maybe we only really did 80%, but we're good because we understand all the concepts.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's the most important part is to understand. Make sure they understand the concepts and the things that you're going over versus, oh my gosh, I have to finish this curriculum. Oh my gosh, this is just so hard or this is just too time consuming for them. Like these crazy ladies on this video were trying to tell me that my kids should only be doing school for like 2 hours and math is taking 3 hours. Why? Then it's too much.
Right.
Then it's too much.
So
Take a
cut it
step
back.
back, cut it back. And like I said, take some of the problems and X them out,
Mhm.
right? Like just X them out.
I
I
don't
mean, we
think
could have,
I've ever had my son do a full worksheet of math ever homeschooling.
oh, I have. Oh, I have.
Because it's not necessary. Well, mine, he'll be like, I can do this. This is stupid. And he'll tell me, like, I know how to do it. It's stupid. Okay.
Yes. And like I said, in mine, I'm like, hey, you know what? One day you're going to have to take a test, and I can't be there to tell you, whether this is right. So you have to show me that you can do this by yourself,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
and he has to take
and
the test too. So if he doesn't do well in the test, then we're doing it again.
yeah.
So, and he doesn't want to do that because he hates repetition. So we better do it right
you
the
know,
first time.
So, and depending on the day, is whether or not she knows what numbers are. There are days where she stands there and counts to 100, 500 times because she can't math. Some days
Mm.
she can't math. But
Yeah. So
is there anything else that we need to go over? I feel like we've gone through a lot, but yes,
we have
don't stress. Don't
on
stress.
time for learning, they have speed lessons.
Oh, yes.
So I noticed that sixth grade math was really like a review of a lot of fifth grade. We spent a long time doing fifth grade math because it was fractions, which you see I'm still traumatized from. But then sixth grade math was like a lot of just repetition. Like, why do we need to do this again? So I went through with him and did like a 6 week, well, they call it a 6 week speed round. Well, he did it in like 6 days. Like each weeks of lessons he did in a day just to get through. And we discovered sixth grade was just repetition and he passed every single quiz. So then we just skipped to seventh grade math. Seventh grade math had quite a bit of information in it because it's an introduction to algebra. It's all pre-algebra. So we spent a long time on seventh grade curriculum. Then I was looking at eighth grade curriculum. That's mostly a review of seventh. What he really needs to be doing is Algebra 1. Well, they also offer Algebra 1 as an eighth grade class. They offer it as a high school class, and they offer it dual credit. Well, no, they don't offer it dual credit, but it will count towards his high school transcript, right, as some
Mhm.
of his credits that he needs to earn at home. So we're going to do the Algebra 1 and Algebra 2,
They
the
have
time
Algebra
for
1 in
learning.
college.
Yeah, so I don't know, but he
They
doesn't,
do
does
have
he need
Algebra
to
1 in
take the
college. That's what
TSI to
Dylan's
take
taking
it?
right now. Yes.
So they have to
That
pass
is
the
what he has to do.
TSI.
They have to pass, which means they have to have Algebra 2, which is weird. They have to have Algebra 2 to pass the TSI, but you can, Dylan's taking
Take
Algebra 1
Algebra
right
1.
now.
So
Yeah.
they need Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 to pass the TSI to take Algebra 1.
You basically, yeah.
Not all of this makes sense, but it's college.
Well, it's college algebra. I don't know if it's necessarily called Algebra 1, but it's college algebra.
Well, if it's college algebra, which is
Mhm.
also usually paired with trigonometry, that doesn't, you don't take that until after Algebra 2.
No, this he's taking just, yeah,
If
no.
it's college algebra, you have to have Algebra 2 to pass it.
Mm-mm.
I don't know.
It's probably just regular
Anyway,
algebra then.
so, but the point is that we spend a lot of time on fifth grade. We breeze through sixth. We spend a lot of time on seventh. We breeze through eighth. There's times in our curriculum that we found that there's more review, and we skip review and move on to the next things, and that's just what we do. So, but mine
Yeah,
has
and
some
we just keep
memory.
moving.
So,
Look, and for us, we're just like, I feel like we're just keep chugging along. And some days I feel like I'm completely, honestly, making it up as we go. Some
right.
days that's just how you feel like. Because Jennifer uses a curriculum that's all there and it's all online. I like to use workbooks. I don't like to do all online because it's just not, it doesn't work for us necessarily. I want to have something that the kids can look at and
Tangible.
um yes, and some days computer is just not it.
Well,
So
also when he was younger,
I
I
mean, even
printed
for,
out those workbooks that Time for Learning had.
yes,
So we did still have some tangible books. But mine isn't as much of a
I'm even
paper kid as yours are.
yeah, well, I'm even talking about for Reese because he's no, no. If I put him in front of the computer too long and I'm not paying attention, trying to teach the other kids, he's gonna be on YouTube.
Well,
Like,
and mine has
let's get
been
real
guilty
for a
of that
second.
too.
Let's
But
get real for a second. Like that's gonna happen.
I have
So
incentives for time management because he can watch YouTube and he can do his schoolwork, right? And he can do both simultaneously and still do well because of the way his
no,
brain works. Mine
yeah,
can't.
but Reese can. Yes, but
But
Reese can.
it will take him 6 hours to do his schoolwork. So what I did is I put in incentives for him to finish in a timely fashion. So if we finish our schoolwork in the couple of hours it's supposed to, then we get extra game time for how we incrementally finish our schoolwork.
Mhm.
So he has checkpoints where he earns 30-minute increments of game time, and that helps him time manage. Otherwise, he doesn't care because he's not going to bed till late because he's a homeschooler. So he has all night to do his schoolwork for all he's concerned. I'm the one that
Yeah,
wants it done
no,
quick.
not in our house either. So it is very funny how we're, you know, we both actually show the different things that you can do. And the fact that you have a full-time job where you have to be in front of your computer, you work in the sense that you have someone else and someone else to answer to during the week, right? So
Hmm.
you homeschool and work.
Hmm.
I just homeschool everywhere and everyone and
Well,
and I have
unfortunately, my
and I
boss
have
is,
this group.
yeah, fortunately, my boss is super cool about it because I'll be like, on a call with my boss and he goes, I got an 80. What? That's my
At least you
son.
don't need it quiet in your house when you're working all
Not
the
all the
time.
time. Not all
Not
the
all the
time.
time. But we both do things so completely different. So we can give
Hmm.
people, two different point of views, right? You use online, I use basically textbooks. You work, you know, a job basically work from home job. And,
Hmm.
and I am just home
No, but you have the
with all
group,
these
which is what
kids.
you were going to say
Yes, but I
earlier.
do have the
And that
group.
is a
Yes.
huge responsibility and very time consuming. And then being there for all those activities throughout the week, which breaks up your homeschooling time. And
Yes,
then
it
on top of
does.
that, the co-ops that we have. So we have
Yes.
co-ops, and then work and then group and then activities, and it's a
And then
lot.
I do homeschool. Again, I do homeschool other kids, not just my own.
Hmm.
So, but I have a little bit more freedom than you do. I don't actually say I work, I don't work away from the house where you actually work sort of away from the house.
Yeah, well,
You have a job. I mean, it's at home, but you still have a job,
I
right?
mean, I'm
And just,
attached to a laptop, but you're
yes.
attached to children that you teach and babysit. So, I
But
mean,
well, yes, but the fact is that anyone can do this, right? You
yeah.
don't have to. The fact is you can have a 9 to 5 job where you are away from the house 9 to 5, and you can homeschool your kids nights and weekends. Because
Hmm.
that's the other thing. Like Orion, he's going to be like, "Oh, I don't care. I'll go to bed." I know that he goes to bed at like sometimes 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. You know,
Often.
you can, you can, you can have whatever schedule fits your family. You do not have to get
Mm.
up at 9 o'clock like all those templates tell you to do and start
No,
homeschooling, get up at 7 and start homeschooling, breakfast at 7:30 and brush your teeth and then be at the table by 8 o'clock to start, language arts today and math tomorrow and all these things. It
actually, mine got up
just
at
do it.
7:30 this morning because he wanted to get his schoolwork done right away. So he got up at
You
7:30.
better
He had
mark
his
this day
schoolwork,
on
I
the
know.
calendar.
He had his schoolwork done by 8:30 in the morning, I think, and then had game time and took like a 2-hour nap in the afternoon just 'cause.
We have a friend though that her daughter gets up at like 5 a.m. and is done with school for the day by 10 o'clock or earlier. Like, yeah,
Mm. So it depends what he
just do
wants to do
however
and
you
how
want.
motivated he is. Like he knows he's only got 4 more lessons of his entire class, and then he's done with this entire class. So that's all he has to do this week is 4 more lessons and then a cumulative test, and he's done. So he's pretty
Like I
excited about
like
that.
I said, Reese has finished his curriculum for language arts for the year, and I haven't printed off next year's yet because and that's the other thing too. You can either take a break or you can roll into the next year, and as soon as I get it printed off, we'll be rolling into the next year. Again, you can do this any way that you want to do this, any way
Hmm.
that works best for you.
Well, actually, Orion has told me what? What were you
Like
gonna say?
Jennifer says, like you skip things, you do all these kinds
Okay.
of things, right? And your kids will tell you if they like a break or not. I mean, it, my kids went off with my in-laws one day, and someone asked my son, "Oh, are you ready for summer break
Summer?
and no school?" And my son's like,
What
"People
are you
get
talking
breaks in the
about?
summer?" Like he's like, "We homeschool, we don't get breaks."
No. Well, mine actually agrees that a break longer than 2 weeks is hard for him because it throws his schedule off too much and it's hard for him to transition back. So
Mhm.
we've decided that more frequent breaks of only maybe 2 weeks max at the time is better because then we're not completely thrown off our schedule. It's only 2 weeks
Yes.
and that's it. And we can go back and then we'll just take more breaks. So he had a couple of weeks off a little bit ago. When he finishes these electives, I'm going to give him a couple more weeks off and let him focus on like Civil Air Patrol and
Your extracurricular
yeah,
activities.
extracurricular stuff, right? And then we'll start half of next year's curriculum. We'll start the algebra and language arts for eighth or for high school, freshman high school. And then in the fall, we'll add on the stuff from Lamar. So we're not just thrown into a high school curriculum. We're going to ease into it, like start
Mhm.
two and then start two later.
Yes, and that's something else you can do. Again, you can make your own schedules, make your own the way you do it. Whether I know one of our friends has said thank you, thank you, thank you, because now one of her children, she does what you do with Orion, and she does a whole bunch of one subject a day. She's like, I never thought of that to
Hmm.
like let them do that, and she was doing many subjects every single day, and it did not work for one of her children, or I know for a fact one of her children. So now she has that child doing a whole bunch of one subject a day, and she said it's
Working
been going pretty good for
good.
that child.
Well,
Again, it
because
doesn't mean it's going to work for all children.
no,
You got to
but some
pick
kids
and
are
choose and figure it out and try different things.
Yeah, well, some kids get overwhelmed, right? So if they see like this huge list of like four subjects of all the things, that's very overwhelming, right? Whereas you're like, okay, we're just going to do two lessons of this one subject. That's it. It might be the same amount of work. It just looks like less. And in the
Hmm.
kid's brain, maybe it just seems like less or feels like less. And it'll do, and they'll do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
All
I
right.
think we have gone over a lot today. So
Yes.
I think we can end for today, and we will be back with our next episode as soon as possible. I don't know when that's going to be, but we will get the next one up.
Maybe next week.
We have a list. Yes, we have a list of so many things that people have asked us and things that people ask about and common questions that we get asked. Um, and that's where we're getting our material from is literally just people asking questions. So if you want us to answer a question for you, feel free to leave a comment. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and all the things,
Yes. Hit the bell
right?
ding.
Yes. And we will see you next time.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.